What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. And pop culture, folks, is back. Just as masks are coming off for those who are vaccinated, culture is returning because we have a big week this week. We have three fairly big music projects and a couple other of that we're not going to be talking about, but big name bands or people dropping stuff. We have some big pop culture news that dropped just before recording this morning. Then we also have two movies that were, I'd say, pretty highly anticipated, at least at one point. We'll talk about if they lived up to the hype. But I'm here with my co-host Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, how you doing this weekend? Or how you doing today? Not this weekend.
Doing well to both. Doing well. Yeah. Concert venues losing capacity restrictions, more tour dates getting announced, movie theaters in the US continuing to open up. Things are happening whether they should or not. I think that part of the equation is no more. It's happening.
COVID is over for a lot of people at this point. So still be careful, especially if you haven't had the opportunity or have chosen not to get vaccinated. But, Dave, with all this news about all these things happening, I don't know if anyone saw it coming, but today, AT&T and with their Warner Media company merged with Discovery or purchased them, I guess, or I don't know, merger
Yeah,
of
I
some
guess
sort,
I guess
right?
AT&T is selling off WarnerMedia, which is
Right.
being merged with Discovery. Which is, yeah, an unexpected development to say the least.
And why that's, I don't know, I think important to us is the implications for HBO. Um, but, people, I guess, also like Discovery Plus and are wondering what's going to happen with that. And, uh, you know, when I first saw this news, I didn't actually didn't even think much about what this meant for HBO. But as we've been talking about a little bit and kind of thinking about it, it seems like there might be some interesting implications. What interests you most about this merger?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the obvious thing is there had been, tons of talk just about AT&T's management of Warner Media. Like Warner Media was the new name of Time Warner once AT&T merged after purchasing Time Warner about 3 years ago, which in and of itself was a very long, protracted acquisition, of telecoms. And in the process, of course, AT&T gets to own HBO and a bunch of other brands like was it a Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, TNT, CNN, DC, of course,
Mhm.
Warner Brothers Movie Studio. A lot of notable stuff. But along the way, it just seemed like the priorities of AT&T for Warner Media were kind of all over the place, right? And I guess that came to a head with HBO Max, which I mean, to us as plugged-in people, we were very excited about from the jump because it was HBO for the same price as it always was, except with lots of more things,
Mhm.
aka a no-brainer. But
Yeah.
to the average person, it was poorly messaged and the confusing branding, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, since then, HBO Max has acquired more subscribers and uh, seem to have found a footing. Like they're beating their projections, and then of course the Warner Brothers movie slate this entire year debuting simultaneously on HBO Max, which seems to have been a boom. Right? Remember, a lot of people, including us, were critical of that decision in terms of how it affect movie theaters. But you look and like Mortal Kombat, Godzilla versus Kong, Tom and Jerry, just about the most successful movies of 2021. Most of them are Warner Brothers movies that you could have watched for free anyway. So
Yeah.
funny how that goes. But now, right, you have AT&T just getting out of the game, and HBO now, the thing we care about the most, is being run by people that make content first. Discovery doesn't worry about uh, investing in their 5G networks to compete with Verizon and T-Mobile. They don't care about
Mhm.
that. They just care about getting you to subscribe by investing in their content. And we talked about how consolidation in the streaming wars is inevitable, right? Like you can't have all these subscription services. Not all of them can sustain themselves. we saw how fast that can happen with something like Quibi just going up in smoke before
Hmm.
you even had a chance to breathe. And I actually just like this call because as long as Casey Boys is still going to run the show at HBO, I'm happy to see that Warner Media, whatever they're going to call it now, that HBO brand just get more stuff. Because while I'm not someone who really watches HGTV or Food Network, Home Living Network, stuff like that, that's hours on the TV, right?
Yep.
That is innings pitched. That is bulk content. That and discover all those Discovery brands are successful brands, and I think this kind of consolidation actually makes sense for the continued success and future of both of these entities, which are now one entity.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And as you think about how a streaming service like HBO and even things like Hulu, which is a little different because it's under Disney now, but um, how they can, so I guess like Disney Plus, how they can really compete in like this world moving forward is you need to have just that like mindless content that I talked about last week with things like The Circle or like the
Mhm.
stupid shows I've watched on Netflix, like
Right?
Mortgage or Marriage, which is exactly what HGTV takes you. It fills time. It's a time waster in a lot of ways. Also very entertaining stuff, which I get and I watch it too. But that's what a lot of people want to watch, and so having
That's why
that
Netflix is making more and more of it.
right, and that's why having it as something maybe not under the HBO Max subscription, but something HBO can offer at a lower subscription with like, oh, buy into HBO Max for these other things that you might like is probably the way to go. And selfishly, I want to see HBO continue to acquire these sorts of things because even if it's not what we would consider like HBO level content, one, I think that I trust their creators to add something to this content and maybe work with some of the other people on these networks to make interesting shows that I may want to tune into. But the more that they're getting subscribers, the more the money that they're making, we're going to see better content because as much as Netflix has had some real hits, HBO is known for making that
Mhm.
quality content. We talk about HBO shows probably more than any other shows
Oh
on
yeah,
here because it's just the best. So, in our opinion, at least.
yeah, no,
Um,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah,
What else
I
stands
think
out to you about this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like negatively, it seems like Jason Keytar, who was running Warner Media, is going to be leaving the post, and this combined entity will be run by the CEO who is currently running Discovery. I forget his
Yeah.
name, but he is more like old school media, cable kind of sort of things with the entertainment exec. When Keytar seemed to be much more uh, you know, like new money, I guess. And Kitar
Mhm.
was successful in turning around that HBO Max launch after the initial issues with AT&T's management of Warner Media. There's been a lot of leadership changes behind the scenes in the umbrella above HBO, and now we get another one of those again. But I just think like long term, you would think that having just content people be involved in this content game would benefit everyone. Again, like there's no reason to expect Casey Boys to be gone. So, and we
Right.
know his stamp of quality, is still undefeated. So, um, and honestly, this kind of thing, merging, we take away Warner Media without AT and T's backing is a smaller fish as far as the streaming wars are concerned. When you go up against Netflix, Amazon, and Apple. So now I think Discovery and Warner Media, maybe that this new entity is ripe to combine with somebody else down the line, like AMC, who we know is for sale,
Ooh.
or even maybe something bigger like CBS Viacom. Because again, we know consolidation will continue to happen. So having all these smaller fish actually unite for the sake of their collective survival, pretty interesting. Like I think that's actually probably a more appealing thing to me than say Apple gobbling up something, just because they can.
Totally. I would love that if AMC was purchased by this group and fall under that umbrella. Also, just as a note, it's David Zaslav, the CEO of Discovery Plus. But
Right.
yeah, I think this is exciting stuff. Something we'll be keeping our eye on. I'm looking forward to watching Love It or List It on my HBO Max subscription in the near future. So we'll do our review when that time comes. Any last thoughts on this, Dave? Are you ready to do some music?
Yeah, I'm ready. I think this is another one of those things where it's like no one at the end of the day knows who the fuck owns Discovery Brands anyway,
Right.
right? So I think to the average person, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, that's on HBO Max now. Cool." Like that. No, the average person will have no idea this has happened.
I don't know how much Oprah is involved with the Oprah Winfrey Network at this point, but it's under
Right.
Discovery Plus. It'd be really interesting if they would make some kind of like Godfather offer for her to do like a talk show, like a
Mm,
monthly talk show or something like that.
interesting.
I'd love to see it. But let's move on to Georgia Smith, who we haven't really heard from since Lost and Found in 2018, which was an album that I think we both really liked. We
Yeah.
were very high on and felt like this is a person with a lot of potential. So to not hear from her really in 3 years, I think she might have popped up once or twice on features.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you said 2018 debut album, rapturously received. Had that in my top 10 that year. But yeah, for the most part, she has not been around too much, apart from I think "Be Honest," which was a loose single from 2 years ago featuring Burna Boy, which is a tremendous track. Other than that, she has not been around too much, which is she's only 23 now, but she was like a really fast riser. You would have thought that wouldn't have been the case, but
Mhm.
here she is finally. I've really been anticipating something from her, and it's being clearly messaged as a holdover for the second album type of EP. This is very much the leftovers sort of thing, but still happy to hear something, because again, it's been a long time.
No, I completely agree. And I think that this EP, Be Right Back, is exactly what you would expect from a holdover album, where it's like, or a holdover project, bit hit or miss for me. I think there's a couple of tracks that really stand out and sound uh, like they should be on an album, and Georgia should be promoting those heavily. And then there's a couple that I'm like, oh, well, get these out and fill up the EP and, get 25 minutes out of this thing. How did you feel about Be Right Back?
Yeah, I felt the same way, and before I realized it was clearly being referred to as a holdover, I was disappointed. I was like, kind of struggling with this a little bit. You think back to Lost and Found, you think back to even the songs of hers that predated that from a few years, like Blue Lights, which I think was the really first big track that she had out before all the Drake collabs really
Mhm,
put her on the map. She has such like a vibrant voice, and definitely felt like a unique presence in this really, rising popular like experimental R&B genre that we have right now. And like I think Georgia brings a lot of like soulful uh touches to her R&B as well. And to this, this she definitely sounded like older to me. Like it's clear she is like a different person now. But so I think some of those like middle tracks on the EP didn't stand out to me though. Like I like there's something about her, the early stuff really like popped out to me, like sonically.
mhm.
And this stuff didn't feel nearly as special. And I was chalk that up to this being the holdover.
Did you feel like any of the tracks stood out to you? Because I definitely feel like the first like
Yeah.
three, I'd say.
So
Addicted is a hit for me.
yeah, Addicted's really good, and as well as Gone. Those both happen to be lead singles. I really like those
Mhm,
tracks. I think towards the end, Weekend's all right, but
mhm.
I think some of the middle tracks didn't do much.
Yeah, I liked the bass groove on Burn. That really stood out to me. And of course, I think it goes without saying that Georgia sounds really good on these tracks, but I think the songs aren't as interesting in the middle. They kind of just fall flat. But something like Addicted, right? So you have this like really like whirring, sped up bass loop that is just kind of driving the song. And Georgia just singing urgently over it kind of gives this energy very actually I think opposite of what I remember from Lost and Found is like it's this more like smooth laid back vibe on Lost and Found a
Yeah,
lot. This felt a lot more urgent. So I felt like that was a real interesting track to start with and something that I'm really looking forward to. And then like Bust Down just a couple tracks later with Shabo. Not only did I think that was a good pairing, I thought they both sounded really good on the track together, but it had, a bit of like a reggae dancehallish type
yeah,
vibe to
those
it, which I
Afro beats, kind of like the
yeah,
song with Burna. Yeah,
and I thought that was decent. Like I thought it worked, and it'd be interesting to see what she does with a little bit more of that on an actual album instead of just kind of piecing these together. But Yeah, with Lost and Found, you remember it being such a cohesive project, and this definitely you can tell it's just kind of like, we have these tracks, let's just put them out and move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah. But like I do give her credit. You know, she's taking her time. I mean, I saw I wasn't totally sure if this was just conjecture or not, but I saw it saying 2022 for that sophomore album. So again, that'd be quite the wait. You know, that's a 4 year gap. So she's definitely taking her time, and that's really cool. Someone else who's taking your time happens to, her fellow uh, uh Englander of similar genre band, LMI, same thing. Very much
Mhm.
anticipating new music from her as well. So happy to wait if it's good, obviously.
I have a feeling with especially people who have been holding over for this long, we'll be hearing from them very early next year, maybe even like late December, early January, because they want to be getting this out definitely before festival season starts. And
Right.
I think the hype for like things like Coachella, Glastonbury is going to be like otherworldly. So
Adele will
um,
eventually release another album. We know one day.
eventually, it'll be like 43 at that point or whatever number she's on. But let's move on to another female auteur, Saint Vincent, uh, who is, I think, a figure in rock music that we've talked about, and I think I definitely like her a little bit more than you do, but I think we both kind of see her as just an excellent artist who the music's always quality, but do we always like it? I think is kind of at least where I fall with it. Most of the time, I do, but I think this is an interesting project because um, St. Vincent is ever changing, and she continues to change on Daddy's Home. And Dave, did you like the direction that St. Vincent went on this album?
I definitely didn't dig it as much as I liked Mass Seduction from
Mhm.
2017. And I think that's very easy to explain because, as you said, she likes to develop and dive into whole new personas and branding for each album cycle. And that is often followed by different sounds and genres and stuff.
Mhm.
And in this case, it's very like mid 1970s aesthetics.
Yeah.
But it's not like she's like super like jamming out on the guitar, you know? Like again, to me, I think you're right. Like she's always a really interesting figure, and she manages to stay relevant even like between album cycles. Like I think very vividly of her at the 2019 Grammys with Dua Lipa just jamming out on guitar to One Kiss, and like as they both
Mhm.
perform that, obviously a song that didn't have a guitar beforehand, and like, she seems to always be around. And in this case, there's obviously like a message going on here. That the title track is or the title of the album is very intentional to her personal life,
Mhm.
but I think just at the end of the day, like the sounds is just not my favorite stuff. So like in Matt Seduction too, like there were some really songs I really enjoyed on that, like Pills, for example. I felt like really accessible music. And in this case, it's just it's slower stuff, and you have to really I think get absorbed in the songwriting to appreciate it more than anything.
Yeah. So we record on Mondays usually, which gives you 3 or 4 days to listen to an album. A lot of the time, I don't get to listen to the albums more than like once or twice, and I really feel like as I was listening to this album today, that this was the type of album that probably my fifth or sixth listen, I'm gonna like really love some of these tracks. But I think it's so different. There's a lot of change here, and just kind of doing a little bit more background here. She produced most of this by herself. There's a couple of tracks where Jack Antonoff pops up, which
Mm,
I'm not surprised at. I think
mm.
especially
He was on the
like the
last one too.
tracks, yeah, the tracks that stand out here make sense that they're Jack Antonoff produced. Um, but that like 70s kind of like you know peace and love type vibe. You got some like zitars and
Yeah,
stuff like popping up in the background, very like whimsical at points. It definitely takes away from a little bit of the bite of St. Vincent. And it's songs like Pay Your Way in Pain that I think are the comfort zone for me because even though those start off with like Pay Your Way in Pain starts off with a piano, groove in the beginning. It quickly moves into very mass seduction, like hard guitars, like popping out. And I think that's where I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I was looking for from St. Vincent. But as I was listening to the rest of the songs, I was like, oh, these songs are still really, really good and really, really well put together. I just need to give them more time to sit. So it's hard to like sit and be like, I can't make my full review right now because that's not what I'm saying. But I think it's just the type of thing that Annie Clark makes music that grows on you. Mass Seduction was an album I didn't love at first. Now I think it's probably one of the best albums of that year. So um, she's just that type of artist to me, at least. What track stood out to you, or what didn't you like?
Yeah, I thought the first track, "Pay Your Way with Pain," I like that just because like vocally, like there's like kind of like a shriek to like parts of her voice on that, and like that like made my ears perk up. Um, she doesn't talk too much about like the subject matter of the title too much, but like it is interesting to hear like grapple with her dad returning to civilian life after being in prison for like financial crimes for a decade. That's because again, like if you really think about how Annie Clark operates as an artist, she like really absorbs herself into these personas, and she's not a personal person, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a lot of like storytelling and bravado. She's like very much not Taylor Swift, right? Like she's not making music about herself
Yep.
hardly ever, and that's why I think like you really have to be absorbed in that songwriting and that sound. And like I said, like this time it's just like you said, it's like the whimsy. I think you have to really focus on it too. I thought "My Baby Wants a Baby" is probably one of my favorite like songs from a writing perspective. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it definitely requires more listens because I was a little taken aback by like how different it was to Mass Seduction, which I shouldn't have been surprised by.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thinking to, like, when I first really got into St. Vincent with uh, The Strangers, what, back in, like, '07 or '08, maybe that was '09 even. Maybe, I don't know, around then. Uh, she's ever evolving, and that album is very like, you can hear the DNA, but it's so different from something like this, so different from something like Mass Seduction. She's just never evolving artist, which is great and also challenging in some ways. Kind of sticking with the songs that felt comfortable to me, and I think that's why I liked them a little bit more at first, was Down. That's a very like plucky, almost kind of like throbbing type song where it kind of like rises and falls very quickly. And I think she sounds really clear on that. And I agree. My Baby Wants a Baby, I think from a songwriting perspective, really like caught me. Um, but yeah, I think like the clear standout to me is "Pay Your Way in Pain," which was one of the lead singles. Um, a song like "Living the Dream" is like, I think, where sometimes the album loses me on in the first couple of listens, where I'm like, I get she's going for this like whimsical type feel, but it really just like felt like it dragged on a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but then it kind of follows up with the song like "Melting of the Sun," which I thought was like a pretty solid track, if not one that stood out like as one of my favorite St. Vincent songs of all time. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to like reckon with it because I didn't think it was a bad album. I don't I think I just need to sit with it longer. So um, let us know what you think. Sound off in the comments. Leave your opinions because we want to hear what you liked or didn't like about this, what worked, what didn't. We'll be adding a track or two to our Nostalgia Best of 2021. Dave, any last thoughts, or you want to move on to our guy rankings number what, three from us, two from us,
Three.
three? J. Cole
Yeah.
dropping the off season sixth album. Um, Dave, we spoke a lot last week about J. Cole, where he stands in the culture. Check out our rankings and our, really like our deep dive on J. Cole as an artist. Talked about the off season. We both kind of expected it to fall in the top
Hmm.
half of his rankings, maybe like a three, maybe potentially a two range. Gotta ask, did this live up to your expectations?
Right. Again, like I didn't really know exactly where it was going because we only had that interlude single just like a few
Mhm.
days prior. So I was really just hoping like Middle Child would inform a lot of the sound of this because that is really one of my favorite songs in terms of Cole uniting, meaningful lyrics while not sacrificing like grooves and banger qualities. and that also happened to be his highest charting song to date. So I think a lot of people agree with that. Um, and you know, I think actually since that song come out, which we didn't talk about the rankings, he did kind of have that kerfluffle with the Snow in the Bluff track where he was calling out No Name, the rapper's tactics regarding her politics. And then No Name like really quickly fired back with song 33. And Cole took a lot of grief for that, and I think rightfully so. So either way, I was just kind of expecting like how like where's Cole's head at? How deep is he trying to get? As we spoke with the rankings, KOD, the last album, conceptually I think vast and really trying to focus in on a lyrical message as Cole has kind of embraced his old head tendencies as enters his late 30s. But the off season, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's 2014 Forest Hills Drive or Born Sinner territory.
Hmm.
No way. It's not approaching that stuff. But there's some good tracks on this, and I think Cole still sounds quite lively, which album six. So that's nice quality, I guess.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about in our rankings and J. Cole review in general is just he's got a lot of stands. He's got a lot of people on the internet that really cape for him. And I think if you, at least from what I saw, if you were on Twitter on Friday and Saturday over the weekend, you would have thought this might have been maybe one of the best albums ever dropped. I wouldn't say that, but I definitely think this is a really solid album. And I think it falls pretty much exactly where we were expecting. It's right around KOD for me. I think I need a couple more listens to like decide if it was above or below it,
I
but
agree.
it's on par. And so I think there's a very clear half of this album that I like a lot more than the other half, and that would be
Hmm.
the first half. I think it starts off really strong with 95 South. I love My Life with 21 Savage. Like, I mean, I just want to hear
Yes.
them do more songs together.
Yes.
Um, even things like Punching the Clock. I thought 100 Mil was pretty good. uh, there's a point. I think it might even be. I know people like the single interlude. I think it's okay. Not one of my favorite songs, but it's
Interesting.
pretty a decent song. But I thought the ending, like the climb back, close, hunger on the hillside, I didn't totally love.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, the album kind of peters out. I guess probably around like the 8 or 9 song mark. But that first like you know half or so, I thought was pretty strong. How did you feel about like what we got in terms of the track listings?
Yeah. Funny note too. This album goes on to streaming, and there are no feature notes, both like in the song titles nor like the tagging on Spotify. So like
Hmm.
it just said "My Life" J Cole, right? And no features trends again because that's how J Cole stands like to operate. And then people listen like, oh fuck no, there's features on this. It's been a few albums since he's actually had features. Funny enough. Um, But yeah, I thought that was a funny note. And now since streaming has been updated, and you will see all the
Yeah.
features not hidden. Which, if he had not made that change, I would have complained, of course, because like, no, don't hide that stuff. Give everyone their credit, please. But that was a funny note to me. And like you said, My Life, 21 Savage, as well as Murray. We touched on Murray's debut mixtape.
Yeah,
They're both,
what a look.
yeah, but they're both from Fayetteville, so it makes
There
sense. You
you
got to
go.
appreciate that kind of cosign. And My Life, honestly, you get a lot of the same vibes he did from 21 Savage and Cole on a lot. And
Mhm,
they actually make a really good pair. And I think they complement themselves well because 21 is really settled in as like a really actually he's quite precise in his wordplay. And I think it just mixes really well with J. Cole. I don't think it's as good as a lot. Like I think if you actually listen to both of them, it's kind of redundant, but uh, still awesome here, of course. Not the biggest little baby guy still, but I think little baby's pretty good in Pride is the Devil in general. Like there's also like just an economy with how little baby seems to rap these days,
mhm.
which I appreciate. And it is kind of funny, like contrasting him and Cole because they both are trying to come about with a bigger message in their music. Little baby more recently, Cole of course the past few albums, and I don't think either of them is as effective as the artists think they are at that sort of thing. But either way, I thought it was a pretty good pairing. And yeah, 95 South, that actually has the best guest spot on it because he has Cameron doing like
Yeah.
introductions and like interludes and stuff. And honestly, Cameron's stealing the show on it, to be honest. But Cole
Mhm.
also is, just kind of spitting on that song. Like, I think that one goes hard. I really appreciated in verse one. Look how everybody clapping when your 30 song album do a measly 100 thou. You like those shots at people stream chasing. Uh, Funny to contrast that with the length of an album, like For Your Eyes Only, but I digress. And I think there's like quotables. Like I think that one is strong, right? But then you
Mm,
have the uh the line about on what is it? What's the song? Pressure, applying pressure. You have
mhm.
that line about if you're criticizing a millionaire when you're broke, then the joke is on you or something like that. And I was like, kind of like, why is Cole like making fun of his fans who aren't rich people? That felt kind of strange to me. Like, like, since when would that have been his point of view? Right? Isn't that weird?
Untouchable. Yeah, it feels a bit like you can't say anything because I'm more
Classic,
successful than you. I don't know.
classic. It's like the same thing as like, oh, you don't write rap, so you can't talk about it. You can listen to it and appreciate it, but you can't criticize it. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, honestly, I think my favorite track is Interlude though, which is funny to hear that you didn't like it.
Hmm.
Interlude just reminds me of Middle Child. It's Cole
Yeah.
actually bringing in like more modern sounds. Like the melodic stuff is super heavy these days, and I think he's doing it really well on that. And I guess I think it's really just because like I'm not like listening to this for like super deep lyrics from him, and I think Cole actually kind of pulled back on that. He's not actually trying
Hmm.
to get super deep. Like he'll touch on stuff here and there, but he kind of think he kind of chilled with the off
Yeah.
season, which I appreciate.
I wouldn't say Interlude is like, the worst song off the album. I just think, in listening through, I guess maybe if I went back and listened to it again, it might pop off a little bit more. But I really just felt like that first half, especially like 95
Mhm.
South in my life were probably my top two. And then I think by the end, I just was feeling a little bit of like whole fatigue. Also chalk that up to the fact that, I've listened to all of his albums in the past
Yeah.
week or so. So I might just be a little cold fatigue anyway.
Mhm.
Um, he also got some big producers on this. Just kind of looking. Timberland was on the
Mhm.
track Amari. I don't know if there's anything necessarily there that like stood out to me that's like a Timberland production to that, but um, I was just kind of surprised to see that a lot of T minus all over this.
Yeah. Well, he
Um,
was behind
of
Middle Child,
course.
so I'm happy to see that continue.
But you know, I I don't know. I guess like as I'm talking about it, I don't know if I'm disappointed. I don't know if I'm pleased. I think I'm probably somewhere right in the middle where I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
kind of what we thought it would be. Um, but definitely, it's good to see J. Cole not, putting out another For Your Eyes Only. Like
Yeah. Totally.
keep it at least KOD quality and up from here on out.
Yeah. Oh, actually, come to think of it, there's also the other really notable line on "Let Go of My Hand," where he references an altercation with
Yeah,
Diddy from several years ago. Just that's kind of one of those like eyebrow raised moments. Like, huh? Did I hear that right? I got to rewind
yeah,
this real quick. Um, so that was cool. But
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
He went in on that song or on that story, and then he also called himself out for I don't know if it was actually a call out, but he talked about a couple years back that rapped about folding clothes, but women
Oh, I
still aren't
missed
doing
that.
that or something like that. I forgot what track it was on, but it really perked up because I was like, he really is like referencing that song that we clowned on pretty hard, and we kind of called ourselves on our rankings. But anything else about this album that stood out to you?
Yeah, I think people are being a little hyperbolic on release day, but that tends to happen with
Mhm.
J. Cole, as you said. That's no big deal. Um, really hope Certified Lover Boy comes out this year. I really hope Kendrick album comes out this year. I'd love to compare all three dropping at the same time. That'd be fun.
That would be great, and I think we need to hear from Kendrick at this point. It's been too long. Get the album out. All right. Well, Dave, I want to do a quick little thing here as we're moving on to some movies. So let's just start with this. Like, I want to just tell you, there's this movie that's coming out, right? And it's basically like Rear Window, but like a little more like psychological, like fuckery going on, psychological thriller. It's
Mhm.
gonna be a real like head turner. You're gonna be like, oh, what's happening? Big mystery, right? And so that sounds pretty interesting. Then what if I told you they got like a competent director like Joe Wright to handle this. You're probably like, okay, this is a good start.
Hmm.
And then what if I told you Amy Adams was going to be cast as the lead? Emmy Award, Emmy Award darling. Has she won? She's won, right?
No, she has not won an
She
Oscar.
has
That's
not
why
won.
we're
Yeah,
happy
she's
she didn't win for Hillbilly Elegy, because that would
right.
have
That's
been
right.
ridiculous.
She's been nominated a lot though.
Yes.
Gary Oldman gonna be in
Yeah.
this. Anthony Mackie,
Gary Oldman
Wyatt
coming
Russell.
off his Best Actor winning turn in Joe Wright's last movie, Darkest Hour.
Wyatt Russell, a rising star, just played Captain America in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Brian
Hmm.
Tyree Henry and Julianne Moore are just gonna show up for a second. Same with Jennifer Jason Lee, just
Yeah.
gonna like pop up and have some very small roles in this. Like if I told you all this, you would be pretty excited for this movie, right? You think this is gonna be really great.
That's correct.
And so, as we get the woman in the window, what happened?
What
Uh,
happened indeed, man? I don't
yeah,
fucking know, dude. It's
this was tough.
it's terrible.
Yeah. It's sitting at 20%, 27% Rotten Tomatoes right now. We don't reference that a lot, but I think that feels right because while this wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, I think there are some moments where I was like, okay, there's something. Um, when I remember seeing the previews for this for the first time and being like, this looks like it's gonna be great. And it feels like something went very wrong here in production. I mean, they were supposed to release this in 2019. After test screenings, it got pushed back to May 2020, and then with
Mhm.
COVID, it got pushed back even further, indefinitely, and then Netflix ended up buying it and releasing it this past weekend. So there was obviously something in the creation that wasn't working. Maybe it was more confusing. Maybe it was
Yeah.
something else. But
The
yeah,
Fox merger also just slowed things down too. Very much seemed to
right.
fall through the cracks in terms of movies Disney had inherited from Fox.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, tough to get too worked up about that happening because the rumors were true. It just had not come together. And yeah, kind of annoying because it honestly, it's one of the movies that for me is dragged. I haven't watched something that's dragged quite as much as this did. Like honestly, I was pulling my hair out like 30 minutes in. Like it was tough watch.
Yeah, it was just kind of I don't know. I wouldn't say lifeless, but it just felt uninteresting. I guess like
Yeah.
there was a lot of mystery, but none of it that I really seemed to care too much about. And it was almost like so much misdirection that you just kind of felt like I need to wait until something concrete actually feels like it's happening before I can actually like buy into this at all. I don't know. At least that's where I was at. What do you feel like didn't work for you the most?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just dull. Like the conflict, as it were. Like you said, it's not just similar to Rear Window. She literally watches Rear Window a little bit in this movie while turning out to follow the same key plot beats of the famous Hitchcock movie. It's like, huh, that couldn't be more on the nose.
Hmm.
And that's not helping the movie be interesting. There was like no forward momentum with it. It's like, oh, Amy Adams turns out, yeah, she's a very unreliable narrator. But I also wasn't enjoying being around her. It's like, yes, she has agoraphobia. She doesn't want to go outside. Having a hard time with that. Pretty antisocial person overall. You know, sympathetic to that, but I also don't want to hang out with her. Like I think
Yeah.
it was just a tough hang, and having like it's not like the twists or anything that's surprising, right?
Yeah.
Like regarding everything like Anthony Mackie, for example, it's like okay, that's cool, but like there's nothing like it's not changing the character,
Right.
and then it goes up wraps up with this set piece of sorts, a physical confrontation. I was like, okay, I guess we got to this point, but it just kind of felt like going through the motions the entire time. And Amy Adams was doing her best, I guess. Like she was okay. I don't think the material's really her fault. I don't think anyone's fault. It's really in it. Like a lot of the parts are like really weak. Like Gary
Mhm.
Oldman, pretty one note as a like uh domineering, unlikable, perhaps violent, dad figure.
Yeah.
Like it's Okay, like it's all super simple, super straightforward at the end of the day, despite all these attempts at misdirection because of the unreliable narrator.
Yeah, and then the action at the end felt almost like cartoonish in a sense. Like it felt a little bit like watching Scream, which for those who haven't watched Scream, like part of it is it's supposed to be a satire in a way of horror movies. So the action is comical. Like the Scream guy gets kicked and he falls down flight of stairs. He swings and misses and spins around. Like it's kind of slapsticky. And I felt that way like in the climax between Anna and what was it? Ethan was the kid, I think.
Something like that.
Um,
Yeah.
and it just felt like well, I don't know. Like I wasn't really sure what they were going for. Like there was that one cut scene where like fake blood like splattered on the screen at one point, and I was like, What is this?" It just felt kind of like weird and thrown in there. And I guess the twist is that she actually wasn't that unreliable of a narrator because most of the stuff she was talking about was happening, just no one was believing her. But I guess I'm just like trying to think what happened in the movie that I felt like really added something. I didn't feel like showing us what happened between her and her family added anything. Like showing the car crash, showing the confrontation between her and Anthony Mackie as her husband. That didn't feel like it added much to me. I guess maybe when she was contemplating suicide, that felt like a moment in the movie where I was like, okay, there's something picking up here, and not because it was necessarily suicide, but I think it was seeing her like grapple with stuff in like a real way. Whereas like a
Hmm.
lot of it before just felt like what is actually like what are they trying to get across, and that felt like the movie was moving in a direction at that point, but pretty pretty listless in a lot of senses.
Yeah. Reportedly, Tony Gilroy was brought in to write the reshoots, but you can't save everything.
No, and it's sad because like you mentioned eh, a lot of roles that just were nothing. Like Brian Tyree Henry just
Hmm.
goes up 5 times and asks a couple questions and is like, "We're sorry, like we messed up." Why Russell gets to be angry a couple of times, but then gets murked, and I guess comes back from the dead to grab Ethan's ankle, which I thought
Yeah,
was
yeah,
also a strange thing. Like it's just like, why have these characters playing these small roles?
yeah. That's
Julianne Moore, most thankless for sure.
right. Totally. Yeah, I think she's probably the best of the bunch in terms of like leaving an impression. But
For sure.
yeah, I mean, I think probably the thing that's I'm most interested about anything regarding this movie is that the director, sorry, the writer of the novel the movie is adapted from, Daniel Mallory, writes under AJ Finn. He's actually a very like controversial figure in the literary world for extensive like lying and misdirection about his personal life for advancing his career. It's like a really long and honestly excellent read in the New Yorker about this controversy and how it was unveiled and whatnot.
Hmm.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is actually going to be playing him in an upcoming TV series, which I don't know. I guess that kind of feels like you're rewarding bad behavior to get Jake Gyllenhaal playing you so soon. But alas, maybe that'll lend itself to something because clearly this adaptation of his book did not go so well.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking more about that show if it warrants it, but I think let's move on and wrap up with another movie. If I told you we get a Taylor Sheridan flick starring Angelina Jolie, you'd probably be like, "All right, let's do this. It sounds awesome." And I think this one was a little bit better than Woman in the Window, right?
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, totally, totally. Um, I'm just happy to see Angelina Jolie acting, dog.
I agree.
Like, go look at her credits the past 10 years. It's mainly her directing. And I think she directed herself once or twice. But other than that, it's really like some like franchise obligations like Maleficent 2 and voice work. She has not really been around all that much. We know she'll be in Eternals coming up, which is very exciting, but she hasn't been around all that much. I know some of that's attributed to her just, raising her family. She's got a lot of kids and
Mhm.
trying to be, develop herself as a director. She's made a lot of movies at this point, but it's kind of disappointing to see Angelina Jolie like take that step back when she was only like I think 35 or so. She's only 45 now. Like She still looks, amazing. So it's not like Hollywood
Hmm.
is like, oh no, you're too ugly now as an old lady. We can't cast you anymore. It's not even that Hollywood bullshit. I think it's probably just a lot of her own personal choice. If I have to imagine. But either way, this is kind of a traditional like adult drama star vehicle sort of thing. And I'm
Yeah,
happy to see that, of course, especially when it's from someone I'm always interested in, like Taylor Sheridan.
for sure. And I totally agree. I think seeing her back on the screen is definitely the thing I found most intriguing, and I think what I enjoyed most in this movie, apart from obviously Aiden Gillian and Nicholas Holt, just
Yeah.
being you know killers, assassins. I thought they were great. Um, but yeah, when we think about Taylor Sheridan, I guess and I guess this is where I also was most interested. I think he's a filmmaker who has really come on the scene and just kind of like taken the film world by storm as like a creator, right? Like Sicario,
Hmm.
as a writer, just crushed it. Hell or High Water, another script he wrote, absolutely crushed it and nominated every major award that
Yep.
season. Yellowstone, which he's created, directed, produced,
Hmm.
one of the most successful shows that we just don't
Yeah.
talk about on
Yeah.
here. Like it's
The anchor of the Paramount network and hugely popular show, no question.
so
And yeah.
he's just been dominating recently. And at Sicario de la Soldado, we're like it's a action hero movie in reality, but
Mhm.
like it was still entertaining.
Yeah. Don't forget his
Without
directorial debut, Wind River, though. I think Wind River's
right.
quite special. And that's the second of his three John Bernthal collabs. Of course, John Bernthal also in this film.
Hmm. And he recently wrote for another movie we talked about, Without Remorse.
Hmm.
So, uh, you know, having Sicario and Without Remorse being the two most recent things he's written on, there's a little bit of like something's going on here. Those Who Wish Me Dead, I think is not necessarily in the same you know place as like Without Remorse. I think there's a little bit more here, and you can see a lot of the same like Sheridan touches and connections. But I definitely don't think it's up there with something like Hell or High Water,
No.
Sicario, Wind River. It's kind of mid for him, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, Taylor Sheridan, he seems to be working and writing nonstop. He's very in demand, and I think his obligations regarding Yellowstone probably take up a lot of his time as well. But this still has a lot of those trappings of Sheridan. Normally, we're out on the frontier. We're in Montana, which I
Hmm.
believe he has a ranch out there. Yellowstone shoots out there. Montana, Wyoming. I forget exactly where each one of them is, but like this is the realm that Taylor Sheridan likes to both operating creatively as well as also I think occupy his physical being. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And this one is funny. Like watching this, I think having seen the whole movie, I think I appreciated it more. 'Cause in the middle, I was like, like, is there like a mystery being unraveled regarding like why are these killers being sent to kill this dude and then later go track down his son when they realize he has the information? It's like, what is that about really? Like, is that a big deal?
Hmm.
Is it some grand conspiracy that forensic accountant, the dad, had uncovered? It's like, no, it's not really about that at all. It's just kind of like a survival movie, both surviving from your killers and also the elements. And I think
Yeah.
there's some like metaphors about like how the gigantic fire in the film is of course man-made
Hmm.
and stuff like that. But I think yeah, it's like at the end of the day, it's kind of just a star vehicle survival movie in a beautiful environment, and you're also chilling with a kid actor who's not that bad. Like he's not like getting in the way. So simple, I guess. Simple movie, but still pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I would say the action is pretty good, and I think the plot mechanics are also really interesting. Like having the chase, but of Jack and what his name's Patrick Blackwell and Jack Blackwell, like chasing down the kid Connor and having to like get away from them while you're also have this fire kind of impending, like all these things kind of like clashing together. I think is really well written concept and definitely is entertaining. Um, but yeah, I do think it's a bit, just like plot device to be like, God, you need to get this information to the news. And
Right.
like, oh, we don't really care what it's about. Tyler Perry's going to show up and just kind of yada yada it real quick, and then we can kind of forget
Yeah.
about what's actually going on there. Um, I, I I do think like it was an interesting choice to make John Bernthal such a integral part of the movie, and I think Sheridan really likes him. I think Bernthal's okay, but I don't really think he's like a star. Like he's not on Jolie's level, and I feel like that role could have
No.
used someone a little bit more high profile.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I always have really enjoyed Bernthal. He's also just acting all the time, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, Whenever I see him, though, I'm always like, something with this guy. He's
Yeah,
probably bad, and he wasn't bad in this. I was like,
I know.
oh, okay. He's a good dude. Protecting the streets out in
Yeah,
Montana. All right, all right. You know what I could have used in this? I could have used like Jolie and the kid running through that field. Maybe not having them running through a middle of the field in a lightning storm. That did not make any fucking sense to me.
yeah.
Like, why the fuck would she tell him to do that? Why would she do that herself? That is the stupidest thing. Unless they're like
Mhm.
ducking to like not be tall and get struck by lightning. And so yeah, you know that you're gonna get struck by fucking lightning doing this. Why don't you stick in the fucking forest? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? But maybe we could have been in that field during the day and seen like a nice moose or something, an elk. I could have used like a really good animal moment in this because we're in a beautiful environment, and
I
I
did
just
not
want
expect you to say that at all. I thought you were gonna be like, I could have used like I don't know, some like actor. I thought you were gonna be like, I could have used like Finn Wolfhard in the kid role or something. But like, no, you just wanted to see a moose in the background. I like that.
I
That's
did,
great.
I did, yeah.
Um,
Ultimately, I think a lot of survival stuff is a little, you know, don't think too hard about it. A lot of it's quite a stretch, but
oh sure,
honestly, Bernthal's wife, played by what's her name, Medina Senghor. I actually thought
great.
her stuff was great. Like both like just like the action set pieces that she's a big part of, and also her relationship with Bernthal. Like
Yeah,
didn't expect that piece of it, but I like that.
I agree. I like the part when Aiden Gillian's like, "You're facing it the wrong way," and she's like, "No, I'm not," and like turns the gas with the flame on him and sets him on fire. I thought that was great. Yeah, and then later on when she has the sniper rifle and finally
Yeah.
murks him, I thought that was really well done too. And there's something about just having like a forest fire, like a big fire as like a background that just makes all the shots look so cool. It's like he really can't like do that wrong a lot of time. It's sad to say because like obviously not good for the environment that these things are
Mm,
happening, but
of course.
um, definitely looks cool in
Y-
movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I was yeah, from the jump. I'm like, oh, Ian Gillan and Nicholas Holt. Oh, they're up to nefarious shit. That is
Mhm.
abundantly clear. Aiden Gillian. That's all he knows how to do. Uh,
Yeah.
Made me laugh. But yeah, honestly, this also makes me want to watch Only the Brave, which is that movie from 2017 about all those forest firefighters that passed
Mhm.
out fighting like the Granite Mountain fires, like out there out west a few years back. That movie with like Miles Teller and Josh Brolin and like Jeff Bridges, Taylor Kish. Like I remember like wanting to see that. I thought the trailer was really effective, but I had missed that movie. And it's actually from Kaczynski, who's directed Top Gun Maverick. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go check this movie out because Taylor Sheridan's got me in the mood to watch more forest fire stuff.
Yeah. Did I'm trying to think because I remember there was like the comment that Bernthal's wife makes where she's like, and she's also your ex girlfriend or something like that. Is that ever paid off or is that just like a thrown in line? Like it,
That is completely throwaway. Yeah, wow, I forgot about that already.
I thought there was gonna be something to that. Maybe they like nixed it, but then they have like a very loving scene between Bernthal and his wife. So I was like, oh, nothing can come of this, right? But
Hmm.
I thought there's gonna be more there. Yeah, I would give this movie like a I don't know B-. Like it's fine. It's an hour 40, which also was nice. I was like,
Yeah,
keep
just
it
happy to be
concise.
chilling with Angelina Jolie. Like I'm not gonna be
Exactly.
picky at this point. Like I want to keep watching her act.
And we'll see her in Eternals. So
Hmm.
you as you were saying, look through her filmography, hold it up, and she does go through these 3 year stretches where she just doesn't do anything at all. From 2011 to 2014, uh, 2012, 2013, there's nothing, and then from 16 to 19, there's nothing in 17 or 18. So just keep working, Angelina. We like you. You're a great actress. So, oh, that's it. Why don't we wrap up? What we got for next week?
Well, next week we'll be doing our Drake album ranks. CLB coming soon, so we think. So, a lot to talk about with Drake. And then the following week, talking about a litany of things, such as Barry Jenkins' Underground Railroad on Amazon, Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead on Netflix, the finale of Mayor of Easttown on HBO, the return of Master of None, new music from Black Midi and 21 Pilots, the new pop superstar Olivia Rodrigo's debut album. There's a lot of shit coming out, and we don't like to miss anything. So get to that shit.
Yeah, follow us at NostalgiaPod on Twitter, youtube.com/NostalgiaPod. Hit that subscribe button, SoundCloud.com/NostalgiaPod to listen to it any other way you want to. And also follow our Nostalgia Best of 2021 playlist on Spotify, which will be updated with songs from St. Vincent and J. Cole and Jorja Smith after our reviews today. We'll see you next week.